Let's just get into it. And at the top of the review, I just want to say Liverpool absolutely annihilated Spurs. There are going to be a bunch of Spurs fans that log onto this video and they want to put their case forward as to why Spurs were good. And there are loads of reasons why Spurs have got hope or were reasonable in this game or whatever. But there are loads of reasons why Liverpool took them apart. And there are loads of reasons why Liverpool are one, if not two levels above teams like Spurs. It doesn't mean they will always be there. But in this current period, enjoy this football. Enjoy this dominance. Dominance isn't always something that I think about in football, but enjoy this level of dominance and enjoy this level of just competence that this Liverpool team have. They have gelled really well at this point with the goals and the everything else. I was a little bit annoyed for the back line. We'll talk about that in a little while. But if you look at the out-of-position Diaz or the very much in-position Diaz, it's so slot. We are approaching the entry level of slot at this point. This isn't even like peak on a slot. This is like, oh, the players are using these principles to score goals. And it's not as if Liverpool just score goals through one angle either. There are multiple different areas that Liverpool are attacking and looking dangerous from. And we can break them all down. They were all great goals. They were all satisfying in different ways. And of course, conceding 3 is also disappointing. But as I would have said if I'd done a preview, Spurs have got the instruments to hurt Liverpool. And I also thought that there were different points where, and let's start with this, right? I thought Liverpool just switched off after they went out up to a certain level. And the game was pretty much a game of two halves. Liverpool winning the game, and then Liverpool kind of going, oh, we've still got to remain ahead. Just keep them at arm's length. And almost scoring at will. 6 goals in a game is a game every 15 minutes, if you want to break it down like that. And Liverpool never really looked like not scoring. To the point at the end where it almost looked as if Liverpool were just going, well, we could have scored this if we wanted. I'll just head it over the bar. Like, it didn't even really look as if Liverpool were at 100% in this game. In fact, it barely even looked as if Liverpool were at 60% in this game. Outside of the midfield, I thought the midfield was really intense. With the front line and the back line, there were times where I just thought, you've just kind of let that ball go. Or, you just kind of, yep, I can just very casually win this. And it's because where Spurs are at and where Liverpool are at two very different stages in their life cycle. In transfers, in the maturity of the squad, in the leadership in the squad, in the concepts and the principles that they're applying out on the field, all these kind of things. And I think a lot of people at the start of the season probably would have taken Ange Postecoglou over someone like Arne Slot. They probably would have said, oh, this guy's class. And he is. He's a really classy operator. I like him as a manager. I hope he stays at Spurs because he's very entertaining in the Premier League. And Spurs never give up. But at the same time, we would not be in this position if we'd taken Ange Postecoglou. And with all of the knocking of Klopp over the past week and everything, he's an amazing manager. He laid all the foundations for this stuff. I don't even think Klopp would be in this position at this point. Not that that's relevant, particularly to the way that our season is going, but I just think it adds to where Arne Slot finds himself. It's not that Klopp is bad. It's that he left a great legacy that Slot has come in. And it's not even about him going, I'll just build on this. It's that he's looked at that team, profiled them, and then laid them out in a way which really intensely suits his style of football. And that's the thing is, when I say the word intense, that's about the most intense thing that's happened today for a Liverpool fan. We barely ever looked like there was any level of, oh, we got to worry about this one, boys. There was no worry at all in this Liverpool side. The competence, I think competence is a real level, and stability of this team is just so important. We are constantly just leveling out. Oh, you got the ball back? We'll take that back now. Oh, you think you're going to pass it out the back? We'll work up against that. There seems to be thinking ahead, game planning, which we haven't really seen before, a level of management which I think the Liverpool players were ready for and sort of been primed for. You kind of have different eras in different football clubs, right? You get an intense era, then you get an era where it slightly levels out. And those contrasts in management style, those contrasts in how a manager motivates players and psychologically gets through to them can have a big impact on how the team play, obviously. And I think a lot of people are talking about the pitch side demeanour of Arne Slot. He celebrates, he really does get into the pageantry of it, but not in the same way as Klopp did. Klopp really was like ride or die Liverpool. He laid that modern foundation. He reawakened us. He reimagined what it was to be a modern Liverpool manager and custodian, I want to say. But I don't think that we would be in this position if it wasn't for him. And I mean, I know that. First of all, confidence-wise. First of all, memory-wise. First of all, gratitude-wise. First of all, patience-wise. All those things go into what we have for Slot right now, what we have for this team. We've realised the process you have to go through in order to get to where you want to be as a football club. And it's really satisfying to watch. Some of those players look so calm out there. As I went through at the beginning of the video, I love this front line. I love watching Gakpo, Salah, and Diaz through the middle. Diaz is this ghosting type winger who drops deep. He's like a more wingery type Firmino for me, where he's always in part of the build-up play, or always just looking like I'll just get on the end of that, shall I? Or, oh, I'll just come and do something from a really difficult angle. There's a South American element to it in the same way as there's a European element to some football. But like, it's this unknowable nature of what he does that I really enjoy. And it goes alongside the predictability and thrust of Gakpo, and it goes alongside the preeminence of Mo Salah, who is now 4th in Liverpool's all-time goal-scoring list. It's pretty special in first place. That's a very special list, and he's above a lot of very special players, like literally people we hold up as, well, just with respect to Salah, gods in the club. And that is a really special landmark. So much of the attack is because of the gravity that he has, the way that he pulls players towards him, but his interchange with so many other people today was fantastic. And I need to talk about these other people he's interchanged with before I come back to that front line. I thought that Gravenberch and McAllister managed things really well. The only time where I really thought McAllister slipped away from that was the time where he was fouled, and then there was like that foot left on him. Maddison picked it up, and it's in the back of the net because he's class, but also Liverpool were going for a free kick, and the two players basically, Gomez was very eager today, I thought in a good way actually, but he like got out and it sort of unsighted Alisson. Alisson probably could have very easily gotten down and gotten that, but Maddison gets a goal. It's one of those cheeky shots. It's a Maddison style goal. Apart from that, I thought we completely controlled them in the first half. There was never a worry that this team were ever in trouble for me with Liverpool. And I do think that Spurs were a bit of a threat. Like, I looked at those lineups and I thought, oh, actually, like, you know, Kulusevski, I would love Kulusevski at Liverpool if Salah needed someone to come in and be that rotation. If Chiesa and Nunez were to go, Kulusevski would be one of my top players to bring in. He's a classy operator. He never lets go of a ball. He never lets go of a game. And he just is someone you just want in possession. He's always dangerous. He's got a great gravity, and the players around him move exceptionally because he has got such great vision. There are so many reasons why I'd love him in the team. That's almost irrelevant, right? Salah on that other side, alongside Szoboszlai, who is now, he's like a 10, but not in like an Aymar way, in a way where you give him the ball and he very quickly gets rid of it, and suddenly we've got like 5 more angles opening up. He's meant to be making those difficult, oh, and you're away passes, not holding the ball, not going, oh, I'm going to, you know, just sit on it for a second and see what I can do. It's not him. That's not the role he has. He operates in that area, but he doesn't hold it like that. Liverpool go wide and they come back in. It's why we have such brilliant operators out wide. It's why we need those brilliant operators out wide. But it's also why I think a lot of the time Szoboszlai gets such bad reviews, because he barely spends any time on the ball every game. His touches are they're frequent, but they're also high risk. And there are multiple times where in the most difficult part of the field, where you're basically running into a central defensive midfielder, you get the ball. And I've got to admit, I thought this was probably his best game this season under Slot. I thought his movement was fantastic. The way that he was closing down people, starting presses, helping with presses, finishing, and trying to put people in difficult positions to make sure that Liverpool always had a player free or someone that was not being marked. That's all what we need in an Arne Slot system. And Szoboszlai is great for that. I'm not saying he's a finished article. I'm not saying he's someone who I think, you know, if I couldn't find another option at some point, or I didn't think someone might suit Slot a little bit better, sure. But you could probably say that with any player in Slot. There's always going to be a player that can be better. There's always going to be someone who can potentially be doing something else. Szoboszlai more than ticks almost all of these boxes. I like the arrogance. I like the Real Madrid element to him, where he's sort of a bit unknowable, but like he loves himself. He's young, he's confident, his touches are brilliant, his technical proficiency is fantastic, his mentality is very consistent, his head barely ever goes down. He's been up against it, especially in terms of opinion against him more recently. And I just appreciate him. I think a lot of other people kind of miss those good things about him. And it's because, like I said, the frequent touches, they're high risk, in a high risk area. Let's then talk about the other partner, should we say, on that side. I know Szoboszlai wonders, but really he was quite right-weighted today. Trent. The reason you would pay Trent whatever money it is that he wants on his new contract is because of deliveries like that Diaz got on the end of, because he whips balls in, which are fantastic, because there are very few other Premier League players who can really deliver that kind of thing, who can really consistently deliver that kind of thing. I mean, and that is why you pay the money, because goals, it's kind of, you know, let's go back to the Brad Pitt thing. You know, why do we want this guy? He gets on base. Trent gets on base. We're not paying him for home runs, which we are, but we're not paying him for all those things. We're paying him because overall he gets us through those games. And that's incredibly satisfying. Not only that, but he does also get us home runs. Like, he's one of those guys who gets home runs and does the other, but it's almost beyond the point, right? Why do we pay him? You're meant to say there, he gets on base. He gets on base for those other players, or he puts other people on base. And that is what matters. In these games, his delivery is exceptional, and he puts the team in a great position. If someone's sitting deep, if someone's even in a mid-block, Trent can unlock that. If someone's in a mid-block and then the ball goes over to one side, ball comes back across, ball goes over to one side, ball comes back across, suddenly Trent is just whipping one in. Those Preds are looking great on his feet. You even saw that with the goal celebration today with the polishing of the boots. The other players appreciate it. They love it. It's been happening at Liverpool for years, and I think it's been slightly normalised at this point, to the point where we take for granted that anyone would do that. Conor Bradley has been fantastic, but his delivery has not been Trent Alexander-Arnold's. What his game is slightly more thrusting. What his game is slightly more attacking, underlapping, overlapping on Salah, giving Salah maybe slightly more space. But what Trent does is combine all of that with the quarterback David Beckham type element that I think, even Gary Neville listed it in his commentary, in his lackluster commentary when he thought Liverpool might win. De Bruyne, Gerrard, Beckham. Those are the other three names that you have, which you look at Trent and you go, wow, you've got such a unique strike. You've got such a unique vision. You've got such a unique execution of it to get it to exactly where we need it. I love that. And I love it too. The midfield unit, I thought, as I've said, I thought was fantastic. Shout out to Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez is someone who's, I think, serially underappreciated in the Liverpool shirt. He's a great player. He's very often been out of the team because there's been someone who's better ahead of him. And I think there are people who do things, but no, Konate for me is a world-class operator. It's the injuries that always worried me with Konate. It's the inconsistency which you then get from those injuries, which always worried me about that. And that was always a concern when he was coming to Liverpool, right? I think he's a world-class player. Joe Gomez, I think, has many of those world-class elements. He ticks many of those boxes. He's very busy, but I think today his vision in particular and his mopping up around Virgil van Dijk, which is something which often goes underappreciated about the B-side centre-back. I always label centre-backs A and B sides. There's the A side in Van Dijk, which seems like the stronger of the two. That's someone you would be less likely to attack. That's someone you would less likely want to be on. It's someone that very often you try to shift to surprise the other team. There's a reason you would label them A and B. And of course, it mirrors the old A and B side on a record or a vinyl, where there's like A side is like the main album, and the B side is either the second half of the album or the second bit and some leftovers, right? That's kind of the point. Like, the B side is where you're going to get some of those more complex riffs, or where you're going to get some of those moments where you kind of go, like, I didn't really see that coming. It's not that the A side doesn't have any of those. It's that you assume the best of the A side, and so the B side doesn't get the same appreciation. Think about that for a second. It means that Joe Gomez serially goes underappreciated. Because other people are operating at such a high level, the bar for Joe Gomez is ridiculous. And very often, I often compare it off camera to when you're in school, right? Boys and girls are given two sets of people that they go, right, I am a kid who's maturing now, and I find other people attractive. In your school, you don't go, well, it's about the whole world and how attractive the overall people in the world are. In the school, suddenly people's standards change. And they go, well, who's the most attractive girl in the school? Who's the most attractive guy in the school? When those people go on holiday to France or to Belgium or to, just name any other country, very likely they will not be the most attractive person at the resort, unless, of course, they are the most attractive person. But what I'm saying is they're kind of like a 7 out of 10, and they're going to go on holiday and meet some 10 out of 10s. Joe Gomez is, in context of the overall defenders in the Premier League, an 8 out of 10. Virgil being the 10, someone else being 5. Joe Gomez he's not a 5. He's never a 5. There have been games where he's been a 5, or had a 5, but he's never been a 5. Joe Gomez has been, for almost a decade now, a very consistent performer for Liverpool in multiple different positions, not only as a starter, but also as a sub. Don't miss that. That is why Liverpool would, if they were to sell him, get great value in the transfer market for him. Consider that. But he was great today. And, I know a lot of people are going to go, well, he was at fault for X. That's not really the point. And I do get it. Like, if we couldn't have scored with such ease, which we could, but if we couldn't have, would we have been in trouble against Spurs? I think we would have been playing a different style. And frankly, I think we took our foot off the gas. But Joe Gomez, there were multiple times where it was like, oh, who's going to... Joe Gomez. Oh, the ball's through. Joe Gomez. Oh, Trent's forward, Joe Gomez. Just think about that, all right? There are many different things these people unlock in practical terms. Same with Szoboszlai, same with Gakpo, all these people who haven't scored the goals or are contributing to the end product, but not necessarily getting the shout out they deserve. Trent, I thought was good. I just thought Trent had a pretty good game. He didn't really get challenged all that much, to be honest. I think Son, broadly, didn't really have a very loud game. And they scored a lot of goals just from the centre, just being themselves. They got a little bit of time out wide, but it was nothing special. Spurs really were nothing special today. They're entertaining to watch, but they're really, like I said, nothing special. And that's very different to being something special. Liverpool are operating at just another level to them at the moment. And it's not arrogant to say that. It's just a fact. Like, there are just... I saw it in the Champions League when I went to go and watch them in AC Milan. I saw it against Real Madrid. I saw it against City. It's not about the status of Spurs, though it is embarrassing to lose to Spurs. It is about the embarrassing status of losing to a team that's not particularly in form, not particularly operating at that very top level, be that fitness, be that execution, be that whatever it is. But Spurs serially have had that, and they've kind of now got a reputation where if you lose to them, it's embarrassing to lose to Spurs. But it's explicable. You can explain it. And then I'd say there were just some good subs. Like, there were a couple of really nice subs. Harvey Elliott barely played, but I love that Harvey Elliott's coming back into the team. I'd love to see Chiesa a little bit more on this side. I really enjoy when Jones comes on, but I think, again, it's like a really cool thing that we can just kind of use Jones as we see fit, and we can rotate this midfield. I still think it speaks to the fact in this game that we need maybe one more midfielder we can rotate in there. We didn't bring Endo in order to control the game. We did bring in Elliott. We did bring Nunez. Jota came on, but I think, if I look at... I thought Jota he didn't ghost in and out of the game, but again, one of those games where he's not really coming on to go and push the envelope, he's coming on to be part of a system that's managing a game at that point. And our game management is really exceptional. It comes from Jones, Jota, Elliott, but Elliott was a lot later, and then Nunez, but Nunez didn't really come on until a lot later either. So it's really those two other guys in Curtis and in Jota. It's about management of the game at that point. And that, for me, it's where Slot, like, I'm making a video on this at the moment, he's so good at going, we're going to put a foot down now. And the team put their foot down and they score. Genuinely, there was a point where Mo Salah, he hit the bar. Do you remember that? There was like the little shuffle, which, again, I'll talk about this in a second. I'll finish on Salah and all of this. He shuffles from the left, I think, to the right, and the ball goes around. So he goes left to right. Your side would be the other side, if you're watching. And then the ball hits the bar. At that point, I went, we're going to score soon. Not that I'm some sort of Nostradamus, because Liverpool scoring in this game felt freaking inevitable, right? But it's that when I knew that we were constricting around the opponent, that we knew that there was a chance to strike, that it felt almost at will that we could score a goal at that point. And Salah particularly has that at will look to him at the moment. That's what world-class players get to. And one thing I noticed, I knew this about Salah. I've watched Salah for years now. One thing that in particular, I think we've missed about his recent exploits, should we say, in the Premier League and just in recent weeks, months, and even years. Mo Salah operates at incredibly close quarters to the opposition. This barely ever gets spoken about, and I don't know why. Ronaldo, and the comparison is Ronaldo, by the way. There are no other comparisons to Mo Salah. It's like Ronaldo or the other great wingers of the Premier League. But let's just take Ronaldo. Ronaldo was great at close range, right? But Salah doesn't take that same separation, not in the same way that Ronaldo used to. He used to stand them up and do this whole, roll it over, do this, do that. That was very much like of that time. Like, if Salah stood there and does that, I don't think we like him in the same way. I don't think there'd be the same universal appreciation for Salah. He operates at such close quarters that very often it looks like chance, as if he's just kind of like, oh, I just got it past you, and you're a bit silly. He means to operate in close quarters, a place where it's easier for them to stick out a boot, but also harder for them to stick out a boot. They stick a boot out, they foul. Ronaldo was so incredibly quick and so incredibly impressive that obviously he could do that at distance, but that was like the Premier League back then. There was a bit more like distance. There was like a matador type mentality to Ronaldo. It was like, I'll hold this, you do the ball, and I'll try and get the ball. Now with Salah, it's much more close quarters combat. This is like, right, the ball is literally between us and I'm going to go, oh, I've got it. That's a reactions thing. That's an in-the-moment instinct thing. That's why Salah is at his apex. And what people are missing is that that might not look as tidy as a bunch of stepovers and this incredible technical proficiency at very high speed and all this kind of thing that Ronaldo is famous for. That's his brand. Salah's close quarters, almost Jackie Chan-esque fighting with the opposition is great to watch. Like, it's so compelling. And it was that little shift that made me feel that today. And it just so serially gets underappreciated by not only our fan base, but everyone. Because they go, well, he's not the same as Ronaldo. He doesn't have the same, has he ever controlled it with his back? It's like, who cares? Of course, it's satisfying in different moments to see players control things with their back. I loved what Firmino did. I love Mane's technical ability. Salah's technical ability comes from a lower center of gravity, which is just different to other players. He is elegant he's not the lead of the Black Swan, or Swan Lake. He's not Natalie Portman, that's for sure. But he's not the lead of Swan Lake. Someone else probably is. But boy, is he he's the chef's chef. He's the dancer's dancer. He is the player's player. He's the YouTuber's YouTuber. He is Nicole Milano, right? That's my point here. You know how hard it is to do that so consistently at close range. To do that at close range is just, that someone can just stick a foot out and you just fall over and you don't get the ball. Or the ball just gets away from you and suddenly you become a petulant winger who just falls over a lot. Salah's not that. In order to avoid all of these pitfalls, and I'll finish with the appreciation of Salah, 4th-time all-time goal scorer, but this. We are not Spurs. And in order to avoid being Spurs, you have to avoid falling into some of those mentality pitfalls that other people, or pits that you would fall into, that other people fall into, such as Spurs. Because culture makes a difference, because that is why you will pay Salah the money, because it's potentially why you pay Trent the money along with Trent's execution, but I think it's more Trent's execution, more Salah's culture, and Van Dijk's overall culture. Why you pay these people? Because they don't fall into those pitfall traps. Those pitfall traps, those traps, those pits, you get what I mean. They don't get caught in the quicksand. They maybe have a couple of times, but they've not consistently been there. They've been in slumps. They've been in difficult moments. They drag themselves out of there. They're not that petulant winger that falls over. They are not this guy who, when he comes on, we go, oh God, here he comes. That's not what Salah is. And that's the difference between Spurs and Liverpool. Spurs today scored goals, very good goals, but none of them felt ever like Spurs were going to kick on. Every time Liverpool scored, I went, there'll be another. And it's easy to say that with hindsight. At the start of the game, I remember looking at the lineups and not being this confident, but after 10 minutes, I was like, I am confident. And that is a mentality thing. That is a culture thing. That is something I would keep Ange Postecoglou for that reason, but not necessarily with this group of players. It's satisfying to watch, and it's been a satisfying weekend. Arsenal went out there and beat Palace very convincingly. We went out there and beat Spurs. We absolutely pummeled them to the degree where we went, you have 3 goals. Disappointing for our back line. Verge and Alisson should both be disappointed with that, but disappointing for our back line. I'm disappointed always because I want us to have that thing where I can go, oh yes, Chelsea conceded this many in that Trent in the Matt Mourinho season, but Verge only did 12 that season. It's not happening this season. It's just the nature of the Premier League now. People don't sit as deep. We allow them a little bit more space, blah, 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 blah. Very difficult to get goal tallies that low, even though it is possible. Disappointed they shall be. Thank you, Yoda. The point being, right, we outclassed them continually. There was not a time where Spurs were as good as us. Even when they scored the goals, it was kind of like, should we do it again? Cool, do it again. That's the way it was. And I'll talk about a title in another video. I'll talk about all of that. I appreciate you guys watching. Don't get caught up in the sauce just yet. We've got a difficult Christmas to come. We've got United on the other side of it. Arsenal won. We answered that with our own bombastic, huge punch in the face to someone else in the Premier League. They beat Palace. By the way, I don't tend to go result for result. I tend to go result against this team for the result against that same team, if that makes sense. So if they beat Fulham 5-1, we have to beat Fulham 5-1. Liverpool beat Spurs, who are 11th. Arsenal beat Palace, who are 16th. There is 7 points difference between those two teams. Ours is a third harder. Or half harder. Actually, it's more than a third harder. It's a third harder if you look by Spurs metric. It's half harder if you look by Crystal Palace's metric, which I will. So it's half harder, is what I'm saying, which is easy for me to say. Anyway, Appreciate you guys. Let me know what you are thinking about this game. Let me know your comments. I'm going to do another one of those comment videos. I look forward to commenting back to you. I love getting in the comments. There is a Discord. Go get over there. Go enjoy yourself. Dive in. Chat to the guys. Lovely people in the Discord. And the Patreon. If you're feeling generous this Christmas, get in the Patreon. Have a little word with me. There's lots of little doc stuff on there. Enjoy it. I'll chat to you guys in a while. I love you all for watching. But in particular, I love the people who don't comment something dumb. Someone put the other day, like, oh, you love is True Geordie's girlfriend. And I thought, what year are you stuck in, mate? Was it your last school, year of high school? I think he commented back, like, why would you care? You're famous. And I was like, first of all, I'm not. But secondly, does it mean when you sort of get any notoriety, which is what I could describe this as, suddenly I'm responsible for that? Like, of course you want people to watch you. Of course I want to share something. But to think that I just want to be able to talk at a camera, not have anyone reply and sort of go, you know, obviously I want it to be respectful. I don't want someone to go, you're an idiot. It's just weird, isn't it? Anyway, I appreciate you guys. I'll chat to you in a while. Enjoy the Discord. Enjoy the Patreon if you want to. And I'll chat to you in a while. Much love. Bye-bye.